Hi, my name is Harry T, and welcome to Odejuma. Odejuma recognizes the magic of storytelling, from personal experiences to stories of adventure, from tales of resilience to finding joy in the simple things. This story seeks to inspire, entertain, and educate because there is power in the stories of everyday people, and these stories are worth telling. Hey y'all, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of Odejuma, and I am so excited about my guest today. He is an icon and a legend, and I'm super honored to be speaking with him. And we also share the same first name too, so that's pretty cool.
Yes.
So I'm here with Harry Waters Jr. How are you, Harry?
Good morning, good afternoon, good day. I'm really quite good. Always happy to talk to another Harry.
I am very excited to get to speak to you also. Also because I just feel like you have such a light with you. Like anybody that has met you can testify to the fact that you're just very warm and very open and very giving.
I
And
just like
so
that we sort of went through a process with some friends last 4th of July. So we were having an interdependence day, meaning like how are we
okay.
also taking care of each other? And one of the things exercise they asked everyone to do was to put on a piece of paper what you think your purpose is and just write
Mm,
it down. And then they gave us these strings and we had to put that around our neck. So then we were wearing the purpose that we put ourselves into for other people to see. And mine was
mm,
to help people become more human with each other. Because to
mm,
me, that's one of the challenges that we do have is because we can be so disconnected from each other that we just need to get back to that basic one of actually seeing, feeling, breathing with each other, as opposed to trying to
mm,
beat each other or overcompensate or dismiss or snap off. How do we
mm,
actually see the other person and also let them see you, which is even harder?
mm. You see, we just started. I already dropped in the gems, and I'm also very curious now since we're already there.
Uh,
Like, are there experiences that you've had in your life that has made you realize that this is what you think your purpose is, right now?
I would have to say I'm really fortunate because it really has come out that way in I want to go in various times, decades throughout the times that I've been on the planet. And there was a wonderful moment that I always remember when I was in LA so it had to be in the mid late 80s. And I was doing a show. I'm going to drop a few names here now. Okay. I'll just let that
You
happen.
should drop it all. Drop it all.
I was doing an episode of 227 with Marla
Okay.
Gibbs and Hal Williams and Regina King, who was a kid then. And then
Mm-hmm.
Marla also had a school. And she was inviting people to come teach a class. And I had never officially created a class before, but when I did it, what I found is that I love teaching and I
Mm,
love encouraging, especially young people, to tell their story because when they get the permission to tell their story, then all of a sudden it opens them up to be more creative and vulnerable with other people that are in that same group. So it's that was one of the things that let me know that wow, I really like this, and you can see a difference. You can see a difference in the world that really happens. The other thing that I have to say that I witnessed, which made me decide this latest path that I was on was I was doing a play in San Francisco and Los Angeles, and it was called the First Picture Show, and it was about the women who were filmmakers in the silent era, because there were quite a number of women who were filmmakers, but who didn't get noted, but they still had many, many films produced. And the director of the play treated these women horribly. And there was like 8 older women that were doing this, and I was one
mm,
of sort of I was part of the cast. I was the
mm,
husband of one of them. I played a black filmmaker like Michaud, who was one of the black filmmakers. I was playing him in a nursing home. But the way that the director treated these women, just let me know that I don't ever want that to happen for anybody. And then out of the
Yeah.
blue, in 2000, I got accepted in the MFA directing program at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And it was there that I, learned more about history of directing and different styles and things, but it also allowed me to practice what I was trying to preach, which is how do you respect everybody with where they are and then make them better? Basically, give them an
Mhm.
opportunity to make something else happen for themselves. And I loved that it was a discomfort situation that I got to make into a change situation for myself.
Mm.
And I always sort of feel that way about directing. When I'm acting, it's a different story. I'm a little crazy, but when I'm directing, I really like taking care of all the bodies, not just the actors, but the crew and the designers and ultimately the audience. How are we taking care of each other? And that was a long way around for one of the answers. And I hope that's
No,
okay.
no, it is really okay. And I think that we are in desperate need of care right now in the world. Like we need to care for each other. And one of the things that, when I was starting the podcast, I was thinking about was how when we understand each other a little bit better, we
Hmm.
can care for each other a little bit better.
Right.
When you know my story, we can build community from that, because
Correct.
we are much more alike than we are different. The world would like us to believe that we are, different people because we have different
Hmm.
experiences. We were raised in different ways, but we are much more alike than, we realize. And so, you talking about this,
So I
just
have
is
a I,
really
so
important.
I must say I have a question for you about that
Okay.
because we say that we're more alike than we are different. So we're the only ones saying that. So are the other people who consider us different, are they
Yeah,
saying how does someone get that into their consciousness or conversation?
that is a good question. And I feel like, because so a lot of my work initially started from, I used to be a journalist.
Oh,
I would say I'm still a journalist, right?
yes.
um but I think that when I started doing media advocacy for like LGBT issues, I think one of the things that was very pertinent was, especially in a country like Nigeria that is very, homophobic in quotes,
Mhm.
that has anti-gay
Yes.
laws and all these things, realizing the humanity in the folks who have a limited understanding of what sexuality and gender expansiveness is, and
Mhm.
reaching to that, and I think that is the thing that draws us in. We are all in the world together, trying to make it, trying to pay our bills, trying to pay our rent, trying to just love on our families, love on our loved ones, have a good time,
Mhm. Mhm.
and just be. And I think that that is something that connects us. That's a very genuine human experience that we're all having, right? And I think that a lot of times we see each other as, you know, so different. So I'm trying to find a word that we hit the nail on the head. But like I think
Yeah.
that the other folks who may not have that opinion of who we
Uh-huh.
are, of me and you, are blinded by um the bigotry that they have been raised on, right? And
Okay.
so
Yes.
even though, we are very much alike, right? You have issues, you get
Yeah.
into petty arguments with your parents also, or you get into petty arguments with your friends, or you have a desire to see a much more a world that is, you're proud of living for your children,
Right.
just talking off the cuff. um Even though
I like
you have the same desire, you may not feel that way because of you've been blinded by the bigotry that you were raised on. You know what I'm saying? I think that's why
sometimes.
people don't really feel that way.
Yeah, I think sometimes we're not blinded by something specific. We're blinded because we don't know. It's like if you don't know
Mm,
the other person, of course why would you, what other opinion can you make except that I don't know them, so they must be different? That also happens within our own communities. It happens within,
mm,
a group of people that are coming together for the first time. There becomes this judgment about how different they are across the room or how we want to be like this group that's over here. or how important am I, or the other side of that is, and what am I doing here? So there's that. To me, that's part of the human struggle, is finding the way of actually connecting across the room or across screens, and then what is the desire of those who want to make this change in the world, like the work that you're doing, as opposed to those who are like in the world to sow dissension. I mean, they want to just make it important that everything, we are so far apart, we are so different, we don't want to be like them. We're part of many thems that happens in cultures around the world. Cultures around the
Yeah.
world. I just have one of my new good friends is from Burundi, and
Okay,
so
shout out to that.
and cannot talk about their sexual identity. Just it's
Mm,
not you can't even be mentioned, because
yeah,
it will reflect on the family, on the neighborhood, on siblings,
yeah,
on them also, whether they're there or not. So there's all those different identities that we have that we kind of wish there was a way of eliminating that judgment, because I think judgment is one of
yeah.
the things that really sort of keeps us separated as well. Sometimes it keeps us separated from ourselves, because
Mm,
you want, not probably not you, because you're so well attended and culturally and socially and spiritually healthy, that there's some of us who've had to struggle through to get to be as wise and grounded as you are. Perhaps it was all of your natural cultures, and those of us that are trying to discover cultures here. We don't
oh,
have,
Harry.
yes, we sometimes don't have a system of how to
Yeah.
pull judgments back, because we have more of the practice of judging than the practices of I'm how do I not judge. I have been trying to
Mm,
be as conscious as I can with, especially during these times, even before the pandemic, of how do you find a space for yourself to be in suspension about judgment, as opposed to making a
mm,
judgment and then you have to pull it back, but your judgment's already there. So this is the practice that I'm working on. It's like, I don't want to go in with judgments. I know I have biases. I mean, it's something that you, being a
yeah.
journalist, also, that there's a bias that you bring, but there's also a bias I bring into a room of people. I bring my
Mm,
own bias of, like, one thing, are they judging me? Because, I have three things. I'm old, black, and gay. So it's like, okay, we're going to judge all those things. Oh, and you're an artist? Oh, we got to judge that too. There's so many things I feel that they're judging me about, as opposed to people like yourself that can just enter a room and be fully themselves.
no, Harry.
I should
I,
say, I've only witnessed that wonderful part of you when you can come in and you're so gloriously glowing when you enter a space, that of course we're
thank
all going to
you.
want to be on your podcast, because the energy that you're pulling is non-judgmental, but it also makes us feel comfortable.
Thank you, Harry. But
Harry's.
but thank you, Harry. But I feel like we've all had to work through and get to where we are, especially as, like you said, if you're black and you're gay, that is something that you're constantly working on and improving on. And this is really such, I mean, we just started and we went deep right in, my questions be damned, but I'm going to
Okay,
pull us
go
right
to the
back.
questions. Okay, sorry.
I'm just curious about, where did it all begin for you? This person who is artistic and who has made a mark in the world. At
Well,
what point did you realize
okay.
that the arts, you there?
The arts are what I know, and I've also known that I was going to be in the arts since I was in first grade. And I was
Mm,
literally at the Lutheran school in Denver, Colorado, and we were doing this play, and I was a milkweed. I was one of the head milkweeds. And
oh,
I discovered that you can change how people think by what you say in front of them, or whether it's on stage, or if it's a minute, or if it's a sermon, is that you can affect how people think. And I went, oh my God.
yeah,
So that's kind of like what performance is. And so I
yeah,
knew that moment that I wanted to be an actor. I also knew in that moment I had to keep it a secret, because you can't be this young Black kid that's from Denver, Colorado, who's going to be an actor, and your family, I thought, works for the post office, and your mom's a stay at home mom who ended up working for the state of Colorado, and but it was not about any of that thing in our family line. So you always have this reality of, especially in Black families here, is you have choices: post office, teacher, if you're really smart, lawyer or doctor, or the service, go, enlist in the Air Force, Marines, Army, whatever. And I didn't want to do any of those. And I knew it. But I also, at the same time, this is why all my stuff is kind of locked together. I knew that I liked boys and girls. That's what I was doing at the time. It's like, I was really clear. I like boys and girls. I can cry over this boy. I can laugh with this girl. I can laugh with this boy. I can cry with that girl. And it has to be a secret. So I came up in a time which is different than the times that the current youth are going through, where there was no space for telling your story out loud. We could tell our stories to each other, but then it was also, who do you tell that story to? So that was the beginning of my, and I look at it as, that's how I became a better actor, because I learned how to perform. I had to perform straight guy. I had to perform straight kid in Lutheran church. I had to perform straight Black kid in working with parents, sororities and fraternities. So there was, but also keeping all of my, all the craziness back here in the back. Oh, move back. Don't let that come up. It's like, no. Until I learned how to let it come up in secret, in other little places, and then I could cover it up while it disappeared again. And you all know what that means.
Yeah. How long were you doing that for?
Well, all of school up until I was in 10th grade. And I didn't come out in 10th grade. I was, in a situation where I had access to lots of male bodies, because I was in a boarding school. I was one of the kids invited to an all boys boarding school. And I don't know if I should tell it, because they probably already know anyway. And I didn't feel uncomfortable about what I wanted, just like, yeah, well, it's here. And certain people, you could quote play with, and it was okay. So that, moving all of that part. And then when I went to college in New Jersey at Princeton, it was okay, because I discovered a community. I didn't know, I had no references. I had no icons. I was reading James Baldwin. Yes, of course. I'm reading poets, but there were no people, there were no bodies that I knew that were like mine. I do remember once, as I'm even talking to you, going to a gay bar. Oh my God. My best friend, who was straight and Chicano, would say, okay, I'll go with you. So we went there. I was like stunned. It was like so beautiful. And there was somebody who was one of my brother's friends. So I had to like, okay, we have to kind of stay down here.
What year was that, if you don't mind sharing?
So, God, it's like, you're just really going to date me, aren't you? You really want to. So it had to be, 69 or 70. Because I went before, because in Denver, they had what you call 3-2 beers. So you could go to these certain bars, and they had the watered down beer. So you could go there when you were 16 or 17. And so me and my buddy Paul would go and drink 3-2 beer, and then go to Bob's Big Boy, pee on somebody's lawn. But it's also, so the gay bar would allow you to come in. It wasn't, but it was, oh my God, there's men dancing with you. Oh my God, drag queens. What? Oh my God, I love this. This is where I should be. But I had to leave town. So when I went to New Jersey, I was out, which was like, oh wait, another memory is coming back. This is what your show does, doesn't it? Kind of like peaks thing.
I love that.
Before I graduated, someone in one of my mother's friends' family, somebody said they saw me at a gay bar. And my father asked me, so who leads when you dance? I want to go, no one. You just dance. So then, of course, that was like the story was I was just it was just we were trying to hang out. We didn't, we're not doing anything. We're just being there. So I escaped there. Went to Princeton, fell in love with this Puerto Rican boy, which let me know that it was possible to have love because I did not know
Mm.
it was possible to be like in love and be queer, as we would say, in being gay. I just it was a shock to me. And so because it was the first time of being in love, I of course, because I tend to overthink things because I was that little brainiac kid, is that I wanted to try and figure out why was I doing this? And I just couldn't accept the other part of my brain just wanted to be with them. I wanted to do everything that they did, no matter what it was. Even if they changed their mind, it didn't matter. I'll go change my mind as well. And that was also a time when I learned about myself because if you were to ask me what my values are, I would say whatever yours are. Because I didn't trust that my values were any good. Because look what I was doing. Oh my God, I'm homosexual. Oh my God. So my values must be horrible. So if
Mhm.
I'm with you, even if it became later if you are gay, but if you're the person that I'm working with, if you're the person I'm living with, whatever your values are for the time, it's like, okay, I can do that. I
Mhm.
can take
Yeah.
those in. So I had years of not knowing what I valued, but I was really good at making myself believe the values that you had were the ones that I had. And that became how I lived. It didn't feel wrong because it was just what I was doing. And I really wanted to figure out what was different, but I didn't know what was different because it was
Mhm.
so important to be liked or to be in a group or something and be okay so that
Yeah.
I didn't know what me was, which is why acting worked really well because I can be another character. I can totally take on somebody else. And that
Mm.
felt that was like my relief and my release. So the arts community was you got to perform differently. You got to perform
Mm.
differently. Okay, that was around the world.
But would you say that because I believe I want to believe that you found yourself. So
Yeah,
yeah. So I'm
yeah.
like,
That's
did
next to
art
talk about.
was it the arts that led you to finding yourself, even though you were using it to escape
Ape, yes.
who you
Um,
were more or less?
because we're talking about a time in in the 70s when there was what they now call the Black Arts movement. But it was mainly there were a lot of Black artists that were just making shit all over town. They were doing plays in basements. They were doing plays in theaters that didn't have any
Yeah.
heat. They were doing plays in dressing rooms. And there were writers that were just trying out stuff. There were directors, and we all were supporting each other in these amazing ways. So I got to be in a lot of creative environments, but no one said anything about my sexuality. You know, they may have said something when I wasn't there, but I definitely felt welcome because what I was doing all the time was I'm trying to offer what I have creatively to support you. Like if I'm working
Mhm.
in a crew, if I'm on a crew helping to hang lights or make costumes, like that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that, make sure that it works. I was a stage manager at one point because that helps run the show and you're in charge of making sure that it doesn't fall apart. And I really enjoyed that. But I found I really loved acting because it allowed me to also experience other actors who were really good. I looked at it every time I was acting, I was looking to gain something from these other
Mhm.
artists that I didn't have. So, and I never felt that I knew more or that I was a better actor. It's just like I want to be a better actor, but it's because of the experiences that I'm having with other artists. And the artists, especially at that time, were so willing to just give it to you. I mean, that was what their spirit was. It's like, you wanted, come on in. And
Yeah.
it was, and there was a spectrum. I mean, there was a gay spectrum that I also got to do a lot of performance and readings and creating pieces with. That was a large part of my being able to be in New York. And there was also a very large Black gay community that I didn't have. And all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, this is great. Look, there's like Black gay men everywhere, which is why I'm trying to do Harry's Hangout again, the sidebar. What happened was, even during this time, is all of a sudden we became the family. So it gave me more opportunity to find out what I wanted, or who I was, I should say, who I was. Now, I was a I was a bit of a skank. Yeah, it was the 70s. It was New York,
It was the 70s. It was New York, you know.
baby. But also
Yeah.
and I was telling this to another young friend of mine. It was before AIDS. It was, so the world was working a lot differently, and we were different with each other. There was no expectation that there would be marriage and kids, and you could do you could walk wildly down the street with your rainbow colors. It's like, that was not an option. And maybe not that we really wanted to, we just didn't, because we created our own cocoon. I mean, that sense. I never got beat up. I got called faggot, quite often, but I never got beat up and stomped in the streets. Well, also, I was in New York, so you're keeping an awareness around yourself all the time. There are moments that, and things that happen where I should be at least sliced up or have holes in my body, but I
Yeah.
don't. I don't at that time. But then the other part of, and I forgot what our topic was we were talking about here right now.
You're finding yourself
Oh, finding myself, right.
through the arts, but now you've been talking about what it was like to be gay in New York before AIDS.
Before AIDS. But also, most of
Yeah.
the people I was with were people that were dancers or singers or writers. And so that was the pot that we were in. It wasn't people that were working, in the post office. It wasn't people that had regular jobs. It was all of us that were trying to have a career. We were really trying to
Yeah.
make a career in the arts. And I think the
Yeah.
more that we were in it together, it just reinforced our desires to work harder. One of the things that I was so appreciative of in our time is that we would also do things to take care of each other, like make food, you know, like help people pay their rent if that's what needed to happen, like hook people up if that's what needed to happen. All of those things were like just a part of what we did. There was many, I don't say many, but quite a number of parties that we had that were raising money for somebody, or we just needed to have a party because things were crazy. You make up lots of food, you invite people over. There was usually a little weed, that was there. Shh. and and there was usually somebody in the back room that's doing their thing, and then they come out and maybe a couple other people go in the back because we created a kind of apartment that was big enough. You could afford a big apartment in New York back then, that everybody was welcome to come with whatever they wanted to come with, and nobody.
Mm,
And if anybody had any questions, well, then I guess you're going to leave because everybody else is here because they want to be here. And that let
mm,
me feel a lot better because I was helping or being a part of this community of people. And it allowed us to be happy. I think about it, it's like that's one of the ways we were holding on to our happiness, because I was really lucky. I got lots of work. I got to work as an actor doing a lot of commercials. So I made good enough money in commercials that I was able to help out lots of my folks. Um,
mm.
and we'll never forget that as a part of it. And then there was a switch to another time in the world. I have to say, I'll put it like that. Yeah, the arts were like the driving force.
Now I have a curiosity about what 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 it was like when the virus was first discovered
Uh-huh.
during the AIDS crisis, and
Right.
how that shift affected not just the community but you,
Yeah,
because you just described a community of people who loved on each other, who were
right.
building a very healthy communal space
Hmm.
in big city New
Yeah.
York. So what was that shift like, and how did that affect you?
Well, it hit in 79, especially big in the Black gay theater community, because all of a sudden, a lot of the dancers were getting sick and they were getting these lesions. Well, this was a little later, but at the beginning of it, is that someone that you had sex with, a month later, they were gone. And nobody knew what it was. At the time, they were calling it GERD, you know, the gay, the gay disease. But what was also happening is that the white boys had the resources because they had money, but the black folks didn't have any money, so we had each other. So we had to figure out how to take care of each other. Also, because most of us were distant from our families, because part of the reason that you were here is because you got to get out of there because it didn't feel safe or you didn't feel wanted, whatever. But when people began to get sick, like it went so fast that we found ourselves, you were always either in a hospital or you're taking care of somebody or you're at a memorial. And it became almost debilitating. And also because I have one of those syndromes that they call them, I have, survivor's guilt, because yes, I know I had sex with all of these people at some point, but I was never HIV positive forever. And so it was one of those, I kept waiting because, I slept with them. I know I slept with them. And now they're gone. There were people years later that then developed it. So there were different layers of it. And I had a lover at the time, and Miles. And so it wasn't necessarily during the whole AIDS epidemic, because we didn't know it was an epidemic. We just knew it was killing people. It was just like it was killing people in New York City and in San Francisco. So that was what, like, just about these two communities. And then I moved to LA. And then there were friends that I had there that were suddenly sick in LA too. So there was this kind of fear about how you had to move in the world, because if you acted too gay, people were not going to hire you because they figured you have AIDS. So it was that intense about, especially in the business, in the theater world, which is mostly, gay men. Lesbians are building the shit. But people that were hiring, like for TV and film, like even commercials, they were watching how you held yourself, how you spoke. And so you would have to, for me, it was like, I found my way so that I could keep working, because I created a character, which was the all-American black guy next door. That was, I can be your friend. But I wasn't intimidating and I wasn't too flamboyant. So there's another energy that was happening with a lot of people that were really brilliant, but also even as actors, not that they were always they wouldn't always play gay characters, but they were good actors, that they were not getting hired because somebody heard, or they acted too gay, so maybe they've got AIDS. So they became this really intense. Once again, it was like we had to go back underground again, almost, in order to be free with ourselves. But it's like, how free can I be in the world? Because everybody's going to break you down now because you've got this disease. I what I think what was considerably debilitating is that it wasn't just 1 or 2 or 3 years. It was over a period of like 15 years of people. I mean, I have several friends who are HIV positive survivors, who've been, positive for over 20 years. And they're also the exception to the rule, because whatever drugs they did, or however their metabolism took it in, was something that allowed them to still be here. We we usually don't like to talk about it. And I think that we should, but then when we talk about it, what does it mean? I mean, I have my young friend, as we'll just call him. was telling me all of the access to different kinds of drugs and things that inhibitors and things that you all can take these days, so that whether you had an encounter or not, here's some things that can be put into your system. We had none of those. There was no PrEP. There were no other kinds of we did not even use condoms back then. It just wasn't a part of how we lived in the world. So with us having to learn to use condoms in the 80s was like, oh my God, we're having to rework how we even interact with each other. And now, of course, your generation, the recent generations, that of course is just a part of how you live. It really was. And for us it was different. Getting through with your heartaches and your breakdowns because certain people you didn't expect were suddenly gone was really hard for a long time. I discovered for myself, one of the things that I lived with is I was afraid to grieve because I was taking care of other people that were grieving. So I
Oh,
never
damn.
allowed myself. It's like I can't allow myself to, because I got to take care of these other people.